So our learning objectives for this hour, attendees will describe historical conceptualizations of problem behavior and their inherent limitations on treatment. I'm going to talk a bit about how we've looked at problem behavior in the past, because it really influences a lot of people's perceptions right up till today, and it's a problem. You'll learn to conceptualize and describe problem behaviors by 4 maintaining functions. That's the big takeaway. So when you go to bed tonight and you're trying to remember the details of the day, there's a few big ideas hopefully from each speaker. If you remember anything that I've said, it's function, function, function. That changes how you think about behavior. That's the big takeaway. And you'll be able to describe the value of a functional approach to problem behaviors. Before I continue, I want to acknowledge some contributions from Dr. Joe Lucician, who you saw this morning introduce the keynote at UBC, my colleague Dr. Brenda Fawcett at Capilano, and the Making Connections Society that has supported the development of a 7-day training program for school staff that I've had the opportunity to travel a bit around the province and deliver. Joe and Brenda developed the content for the 7-day PBS training for Tier 3, and I'm going to use a few of their slides later on. You'll see PBS Canada at the bottom to acknowledge their contribution. So since we're talking about a difficult subject, problem behavior, let's start with a laugh.
When you feel the first signs of a cold, use Vicks First Defense. It's a new microgel that attacks the cold virus before it has a chance to turn nasty. New Vicks First Defense. Attack is the best form of defense.
I don't think that's a tactic that's described in the literature. Stealing his thunder, but I'm not promoting it necessarily, but you get the idea. So talking about some problems with problem behavior. This is kind of stating the obvious, but sometimes it's useful to take a minute to reflect on this. Problem behavior is a barrier to the quality of life and dignity for a lot of the students we work with. I don't want to limit our analysis to just those individuals with autism. It's broader than that. But a lot of the students that I work with, if they've got pretty significant and long-standing problem behaviors, they're fundamentally unhappy individuals, right? They're not having a good time most of the time if they have problem behavior every day. That's not a very happy way to live their life. It's not a very good way for the quality of life for the family or their siblings or those around them as well. And if there's significant problem behaviors, including disrobing in public and things like that, there's some of the topographies of the problem behavior. Those are threats to people's safety and their dignity, and that's a problem, and we should be concerned for those reasons. Right? So I think of one kid that I work with who, his family has a lot of means. They're quite wealthy. He can really have anything he wants in life, but mom and dad's way to kind of keep him happy is to give him whatever he wants all the time. So he is very happy when he doesn't have to do anything he doesn't want to do. He gets whatever he wants, right? He can take or leave attention. He's happy as a lamb, but that's not life. You can't go through your life that way, and he can't tolerate living any other way, unfortunately. And so his day-to-day life is characterized by a lot of problem behavior. So despite having very loving, caring parents with a lot of resources, he's a fundamentally unhappy camper because he's got problem behavior all the time. I know we have a huge audience here, and those of you online at home as well, who are in the school system, and problem behavior is fundamentally a barrier to learning. If you kind of boil it down to the nuts and bolts, what's the point of education? It's to go and receive instruction and acquire new skills and new behaviors, right? That's the point of being in school. But if you're engaging in problem behavior, then it's going to be disruptive to that process. You're falling further and further behind because you're not available to attend to instruction and to acquire new skills because the problem behavior is getting in the way. And for many of you, you're in schools, you're recognizing that it's not just the person who's engaging in problem behavior, but it can be their whole class who are experiencing disruption to their education, and it's affecting everybody's ability to learn. I know all too common these days, I'm hearing about through different school consultations, a main strategy to address problem behavior is to evacuate all the other kids, right? Get everyone else out of the room. I see some of you nodding, that's happening in your schools. That's disruptive to the entire class when problem behavior occurs. It is stigmatizing. It's a barrier to social interactions. In particular, if you think about students with autism, where deficits in their social repertoire are one of the main characteristics of their disability, and one of our goals, one of our provincially mandated IEP objectives needs to be social skills. It's hard to develop social skills if their behavior makes them scary to their peers, if it's too stigmatizing and people can't trust them, right? They're unpredictable and people don't want to spend time with them. in particular in the younger grades. You know, I always describe kindergarten as it's supposed to be like Disneyland. It's the happiest place on earth. But if there's really significant problem behavior in kindergarten, for instance, it disrupts Disneyland. And the other kids will be may be very fearful of that individual. And over time, kids also have a long memory, right? And so they'll remember, even if problem behavior is getting better, that child used to bite, hit, scratch. And it makes it difficult to recruit them to participate socially. Problem behavior shrinks the individual's universe. This happens at school, this happens at home. When there's a lot of problem behavior at school, I know it's quite common to not have the student go out to recess, not go to gym, not go to assemblies, and then we don't go on field trips. And it's this cumulative effect where the problem behavior restricts our environment because we can't go out at all. Even one-on-one, we're hesitant to leave campus and wander into the community or do outings and things like that. This affects the homes as well, right? Where families respond to problem behavior by insulating themselves, by not going out to restaurants, not going anywhere where there might be problem behavior that's stigmatizing, that's embarrassing, not going on vacation, not waiting in lines, not flying on airplanes, right? And your universe gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And this happens for individuals at school and it happens at home. I know that I'm hearing more and more of this concerning trend of students with autism in particular who are simply not even coming to school because the school's not capable of having them safely attend a whole day of school. So kids aren't going, or they're just going for 10 minutes or an hour a day, and then they're sent home because problem behavior is constricting their universe. I work with kids longitudinally. One of my current clients is in his first year of university, and I started with him when he was in preschool, before he went to kindergarten. When he was in preschool, he had pretty significant autism. He needed a lot of help. And now he's in university, he drops into my office hours. He's the only person who comes and visits me in my office hours. Kind of like it. But when he had really significant problem behavior as a kid, we were always thinking, well, how's this going to impact him when he gets to middle school, when he gets to high school, and get a job and job placement in high school? And I work with a lot of, these days, high school programs. And if there's significant problem behaviors in high school, my goal for high school is to get kids ready for the day after high school, the transition to being a taxpayer, right? There's no reason that the vast majority of the students we work with, if they're not going to university, then they should be taxpayers. They should have real work for real pay. That involves getting community organizations on board with taking risk and hiring a person on the autism spectrum, which can be a little bit scary to some organizations. And if they have problem behavior, that's a deal breaker. It's not going to happen, right? I can't get you a job at Walmart as the greeter even if you have problem behavior. So longitudinally, we need to be thinking about how this is going to further constrict the individual's universe.